Now that we have all of our details projected on all of our low poly meshes, what we could do is we could just remove all of our sculpted meshes here because they're just bringing the files up. The file size is really big for this Blender file, so best to just delete all the sculpted meshes, but I suggest that you save a backup copy of your work as usual, just in case you want to go back to the sculpted meshes. So I'm going to select all my HP, and I'm going to go ahead and just remove all of them, right click and delete. Alright, so now all I have is just my low poly meshes in this particular file, and yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and save that. What we need to do now is we need to go to each of our meshes here and just redefine the details. So starting out with this mesh right here, I'm going to go ahead and select this, and also I'm just going to go ahead and include the eyeballs with it, just so that we're able to better assess how our eyes looking like. Shift H to isolate that. Alright, and I'm going to go to sculpt mode, turn on my symmetry, and right now, if I go to my modifier, I do have it at subdivision 4, which is fine. And for the smoothing, I am going to bring it down slightly. And just going to go smooth out the meshes here. So you can see that there's some pixelation going on. This part of the face, I do just want to do it manually. That way it's not melting down any of the details at all. So I'm just going to go and smooth it. Also smooth it here. Smooth. And zoom into the eye. I'm going to crank up my smoothing slightly. Bring down my brush size. I'm going to go ahead and set the lighting, viewport shading to studio. Smooth that out. And I'm going to set it back to matte cap and maybe play around with the lighting here. I'm going to set it to this. Sometimes you got to change this up so that it changes the lighting. That way you're able to see what you need to fix a lot easier. So you're never going to stick to just one material. By changing the materials, it gives you different lighting conditions also, which will allow you to see your details more. And feel free to crank up the smoothing if needed, if you're not able to smooth it. The idea is to smooth out those pixelation or any geometry that look a little unclean, but at the same time keeping the details there and making sure they're not melting down all the details that you have projected. And you can see there's some pixelation here, and I'm gonna bring down my smoothing slightly so it doesn't melt it down, the details. Depending on which part of the body you're on, you might want to increase the smoothing or decrease the smoothing intensity. This is why it's important to use this, particularly on the face and the body, to just manually do it instead of using the mesh filter smoothing as we did with the clothing. You're able to further control how far you want to smooth and where you want to smooth. You're able to control the brush size. I'm going to go ahead and set this to this and here. All right. Yeah, this part is really messy, so I'm just going to go ahead and smooth that out. And while we are on subdivision 4, we're in level viewport 4 right now, sculpted mesh 4. We could even further work on our secondary shapes here. So if there's anything that looks a little off or something that you just want to refine, you could do that. Okay, and so maybe like around this area, this is looking a little strange, so I'm gonna go ahead and smooth this area out. Crank on my smoothing, smooth it out. And I'm gonna go to my clay strip brush and add a little clay here, smooth it. So this is just really cleaning up our meshes. Cleaning up our mesh here. Trying to perfect our character as much as possible. Trying to clean it up. And also making sure that the lightness is there. And smooth it, just adding a little volume, a little bit more volume in this area here. And make sure that you are still looking at your reference as you are doing this. Push it in. Okay, and maybe around here, this is a good time to fix your mesh to see if you have any lumpiness going on. Anything in your mesh there that looks like it needs to be cleaned up. Now it's a good time to do it. And I'm gonna set this back to this here so I can see better the shape of the character. Okay. And looking from this view, could probably push this in and smooth it. Look in this area. Crank up my draw brush and a little bit more volume here. I do want to make him a little bit more on the firm side, so really depending on which Michael B. Jordan movie you're watching. There are some movies where he has more of a little bit more fat on there, so I'm trying to go more of that mature look of him, mature look, more masculine. So I'm trying to not to add too much baby fat here. Okay, and maybe add a little bit more thickness on the nasolabial fold. Scrape this and smooth it. And smooth this out. This might be a little too deep, a little too deep. So I'm going to add some clay here, smooth it. There you go. What's good about this lighting condition, you could definitely see any lumpiness here that needs to be fixed. You can definitely see it. It's a little too much. I'm gonna go and straighten this out and smooth it. And here, I think this needs to be around here. It looks slightly pushed in right in this area. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of bulk this up. So yeah, now is really a good time to just go over your mesh and go over your likeness. Make sure everything is as accurate as possible. looking at your character in all views. And I'm gonna bulk this up. Go. Add some volume here. Smooth it slightly. The eyes definitely need a lot of work. I think when we bring up the subdivision level up high, we're going to be able to add more details, and we're going to be able to enhance the eyelids, make it pop out more. We're going to redefine those eyelids. Another important part is going to be the neck area, because this part is going to show, and also a little bit of the chest is going to show, so that's a very important part that we have to redefine. Oh, here. I'm gonna go and crank this up, the draw brush, and redefine the details here. Okay. And also the chest area is going to show, so you want to make sure that this part is defined. Areas that are going to show through the render. So remember that this part is a little open up, so he's showing a little bit of his chest, so definitely take some more time on this. And here, gonna further add the details for the neck. So here. So we already have the details really to guide us, but what we're doing right now is just going over those details and redefining them, because now that we have more geometry to work with our multi-resolution, that means we could add more definition on the character. At the same time, you have to think about which parts are really important that's going to show. You don't want to spend too much time adding details in the areas that's not really going to matter. If it's going to be covered by the shirt, there's no need to spend hours on it when you could be spending more of that time polishing the areas that are going to show on the render, which is the face is going to show, obviously. Okay, and maybe gonna break that up and smooth it. This is one thing that's going to make your character look really, really realistic, is by breaking up the chin and the jaw area. So I see some people, they just do like a straight line like this, but if you add a little break like this and then like that, okay, that will bring your character life a lot better, a lot more, because you are creating something that's not robotic. You know, if you are creating a robotic character, feel free to do a straight form like that on the chin or any part of the body, but since you're doing a human character, there's going to be a lot of breaks, a lot of breakups. And maybe a little bit more volume here and smooth it. And okay, and over here, Okay, maybe for this. And more of this right here. Using the clay strip brush, just redefining the shape. Like that. And go. And to the forehead. Bring down the draw brush. This area is looking a little flat, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of volume here. Okay. And if you could spend a little time on the head. Even the head is not gonna really show because it's gonna be covered with hair, but at least get the head as accurate as possible. There's a basic shape and the silhouette of the head should be there. That's what you should focus on when doing this here. This one, maybe I could bring up the head like that and smooth it. And this is gonna go this way. Alright, and I'm gonna go back, smooth this area out, This part of the head here, his head is still important because he's not gonna have long hair. If you have a character with long hair, then maybe you don't need to spend as much time, but with guys that have a clean shave haircut or anything that shows the head is very, very important. If the character has a buzz cut like this, where you're able to see the silhouette of the head, definitely spend more time on it. Very important. And onto the ear area. Could add a little bit more definition here. And kind of push this area in. Yeah, as you could tell, this is all that we're doing right now is just going over to what we already have. And just further adding those extra details. And push this in, smooth that out, and add a little clay here. Smooth this out, and then push this in, and smooth it. There you go. I'm gonna go to my draw brush, push this in, just kind of smooth it, that. Okay, and it may look good on this side, and remember that the lighting condition changes when you're looking on the other side. The shadow is different, so it's good to look on both sides and make adjustments as needed. Okay, and for this, go ahead and I think this is a little too deep. Push that in and smooth it. And then I'm going to go to my draw brush. Smooth that out. Using the draw brush here. Hold control and push that in. And then smooth it. Go. Okay. And we could go ahead and further review the nose area right here. Nose area and the lip area. Let's smooth this out. I'm gonna go ahead and change this to, there you go, so you could see a bit more from the front. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and maybe add a bit more volume here. The lips are looking a little flat, so add some more volume in this area. Go. And smooth it. Go. And add more volume here. In this area, we gonna smooth this part out. Like this. I'm gonna go ahead and add a bit more volume here. Show a little bit more the eyelid area. Go. Using the clay strip brush, add a little clay and smooth it. Alright. We're gonna go back to the eyelids here and redefine this. As I mentioned before, we can't do much with this because we're on subdivision 4. But we could go to the arm and hand area and just kind of clean this up a bit. Go ahead and smooth this. Bring down my smoothing. So you could see that there's some pixelation here. Yeah, just going to smooth that out. And if you remember, when we were sculpting this, I was exaggerating already on the muscles. So that way, when it's time to clean it up, like what we're doing right now, we won't have to do as much because we are basically making it more like the average person's body, which is not that defined. So what I do is I do like to start out with more of an exaggerated muscles. And then later, I could just smooth things out, and that way I won't have to do as much, because now that after creating those muscles and then smoothing it out, I'm just making it look more natural by making the muscles more faint. Making the bones more faint, which gives more of that realistic feel to it. And of course, we still have to do a lot with the fingers. And add a bit more clay there. A bit more clay on there. And go ahead and add more details here as much as we can. Smooth that out. Use the draw brush. Bring down the strength for the draw brush. And go ahead and add the skin fold. Introduce it right back. And add the nails and smooth it. Using the draw brush. Make this a little bulkier. Could go back to our fingers here and clean up any pixelation that we see right there. And then we could go back to each of these, and using the draw brush we could go ahead and indicate the folds again, an indication of our nail area. Hold Control to bring out the folds. And then if you want to carve it in, let go and control and just draw in the nail area. We're going to be able to add more details here once we increase our value to sculpt 5 later on. But while we're in subdivision 4, we could go ahead and do as much as we can as far as detail go. By having more polygons here, having a multi-resolution modifier, we're going to be able to add the details that we were not able to add before when we were just using remesher. Okay, and here we're going to be adding those redefined wrinkles later on. And here we could go ahead and just make it not as deep, and we could go add some breakups here also. So I like to use the clay strip brush for breakups. Just breaking that up so it's not a straight line. Alright. And gonna break this up also. A little break on there, which more gives you that nice realistic feel to the skin. We could kind of introduce a little bit of the wrinkles already if we want to. But most of that is going to be done once we have more resolution that we can work with. Smooth it. Smooth it. Alright, so we just gonna clean this area up.